Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Empower.
Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risks. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
It's really cool. Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbif Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, the top 14, Pro de National, the national team, and I'll get a bit of a shout out today. The brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, food, of course, the brilliant fans, and everything else in between that makes French rugby so great. Rob, you are adorned as ever in full Pro de stash, head to toe. How's your week been? Nothing's changed despite the new job?
Yeah, not a lot's changed. I'm injured, so no cricket. It's generally been a pretty miserable week, brightened only by French rugby. And I still think I've possibly had a better week than you. You sound like you've had a pretty rough time at work, and you had to sit through some very, very frustrating rain on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's been work's been interesting. It's been not without its challenges. Generally, I'd say all kind of good bad things, if that makes sense. Like just quite a lot and quite a lot of graft, as a certain folk might say. Cricket, very, very frustrating. The sort of day that makes you want to retire instantly. Obviously, we've got the Euros to keep us interested, but perhaps the most challenging thing, and I won't go into too many details, was, as I told you, coming back this evening to get into my flat, and there was a police cordon across the driveway, so I had to go for a little walk.
Would like to stress at this point to our listeners that was nothing to do with Richard or his flat. It was due to other circumstances.
Other circumstances in the area.
Richard has not got the Metropolitan Police hounding him for anything he's done in his past. There's stuff they could get you for, but to my knowledge, they don't know it yet.
Just twitching, looking out the curtains, hoping they don't come in. So it's been an interesting few days, but look, we move on. The French, the theatre, the drama, the excitement of French rugby keeps us young. Where should we start? Should we flipped it around last week and started with Pro de? Should we go into the Barrage?
But you mentioned it there, Rich. The Euros are upon us. And which did you watch live? Did you watch England versus Serbia, or did you watch UBB versus Racing 92.
Now, I must admit, I had no intention of watching the Bordeaux game live. One, because I genuinely didn't think it was going to be hugely interesting. And two, because, it's England. It's the first game of the Euros.
Sorry, I'm going to have to pronounce. I know we had a lot of stuff on pronunciation last week, especially with
What did I
Grenoble.
just say?
You said England, not England.
Blighty. So I watched England, just out of duty, I dare say, and thoroughly enjoyed the first half. And then as the second half became like every other English football match that any of us have watched over the last however many years, whether you're 10, 20, 30, 80, I did start to double screen a little bit on my phone with the Bordeaux Racing game, as much as anything to take the edge off a bit of something that was getting a little bit too close for comfort. But look, they're off to a flyer. One other Euro shout out just while we're on it. Have you seen the remarkable similarity, the sort of what's happened? France, was it earlier today?
Mbappe last night.
It was last night, wasn't it? Mbappe. Lots of a little bit of go between on social media between Mbappe and Dupont on masks after Mbappe has his nose caved in. Funny how these things work.
I can only begin to imagine what's going to happen to France's 100-meter final hope in the Olympics this summer. Who knows?
Or indeed Anton Dupont in the sevens again.
Surely he can't go again.
He can't go again. Should we start as soon as they were here? We love it every year. It comes around the barrage. It's gone, and it's the regular boring old semi-finals to come. But two games interesting in different ways, I would say. And we should probably start at the mile.
It was definitely the better game.
Definitely the better game. And certainly the performance of the round in terms of La Rochelle. I think just to reflect last week, I think it's fair to say neither of us I don't think we thought it was going to be a total trouncing, but I don't think either of us gave them a sniff, really. I can't remember what the away record was.
1 win and 1 draw.
1 win, 1
albeit
draw.
Their draw was their most recent away game at Toulouse, but with the caveat of Toulouse post 72-hour bender. But to pull that out as your second away win of the season in France is phenomenal, really. Against
as well a Toulon team, like, let's not forget how good they've been over the last couple of months. I know they're a little bit indifferent at the start, and they've kind of flattered to deceive a bit with the name. The name is so big and so synonymous with these huge teams and performances, and recently they've started to kind of bully teams in the way that you associated with those brilliant Toulon sides. And I didn't see this coming at all. What I was going to say what's changed, but I don't know if that's too soon to pick up on La Rochelle. Is there anything you want to call out from the game itself?
We've talked about the Toulon line out as like the place to target them, and they didn't even go for it. Like, it wasn't necessarily kind of Toulon weren't quite there, but like they weren't completely error strewn. Like they hit their line out better than they have done. They weren't like knocking balls on. Like, Chamonix's kicking was incredible. Their scrum was on top at various points. Gigashvili was kind of got a number on Weenie Antonio, but it was I'm painfully, it's hurting me saying it, but it was like, because it's such a painful cliche, but it was kind of like a clinical champion side performance, wasn't it? Like, they just kind of like the All Blacks back in the day, like the slightest little sniff, they are the sharper team, they pounce, they score. And it was just that versus Toulon just being a little bit little bit sloppy with the final 5 meters, I'd say.
Yeah, they looked incredibly. They were very incisive, weren't they, when they got their opportunities? They sort of didn't miss a beat. And I think it was the second try, wasn't it? Hastoy scored the first. It was the Lades try from the quick 50-22,
Yeah,
which is just they were just all
that
of the players
epitomised it, didn't it?
exactly like all the players involved in it were just so far, like they were so on it. They were a yard ahead in the head and on the pitch of their opposition. Started and nearly finished as well by, I'll be honest, someone who I hadn't really paid much attention to, but the France young back row stocks, Oscar Jegu, looked absolutely phenomenal. Just complete. He was brilliant.
I was thinking last week, after their game last week when they were at home to Racing, I was thinking this back row just doesn't have it anymore. Like, it's very different to Aldrit, the kind of 2023 iteration, Bottier and Boulon. And it's kind of, you've kind of got a weakened Aldrit and two nobodies, really. Although I'm a big fan of Concorrier, but he was brilliant as well. But Jegu, I was pretty dismissive of him last week, but my God, he was everywhere. Yeah. Absolutely everywhere in this game. And Concorrier I've been a big fan of his for a while, actually. I don't know how he's not got more France caps. And I don't know how he's not in the reckoning with the likes of Abadi or Ruma or, I guess there's other players like Makalu that can't even get in the side as well. But yeah, he's a big athlete, big carrier as well these days.
Yeah.
But Jegu was everywhere. He was phenomenal.
He was brilliant. Yeah, you're right. Concorrier I thought was awesome. And I mean, if you look at like a change of fortunes, I think two players where it really appears to be kind of sums it up. One is Jack Knoll, who I think fair to say took a little bit of time. I know he was injured and he was kind of coming off the bench a bit after injury, but just almost overnight looks quicker, looks stronger, like is making those kind of carries on like a weird arc that get you over the gain line. Looking, if not back to his best, because that was a pretty high bar, kind of performing like a vintage Jack Knoll. And the one who we mentioned there were sparks and glimmers, weren't there, in that game at Toulouse. But Antoine Hastoy looked like a man reborn.
Like the 2023 version of Antoine, the pre-World Cup, because he had a bit of a stinker in the World Cup. I think in the Uruguay game, I think it was. Or the other game that they Namibia, I think, yeah. But he looked phenomenal. He looked back to his best. He genuinely looked like he played flat to the line. He played with pace. Some of his passing was amazing. His kicking was brilliant. You'd have to think there's a little bit of correlation and causation with Kerbalo being back fit, because I think he is the second best scrum half in the world behind Antoine Dupont. I'm putting it out there. I think he's just an all-round complete player. Like, he's a brilliant, like, defensively as well, and his passing and his kicking was fantastic. To have someone like that running the show, and then you can kind of ride off their coattails, certainly helps. And also, I guess it's probably a little bit of the form of, Concorrier. Skelton's looking pretty damn good at the moment. Bit of front football from those guys probably helps as well for Hastoy. Yeah, all just seems to be coming together at the right time. And saw it was probably paraphrased, but an interview with O'Gara afterwards, he kind of said that the guys he's building a squad around, or has always wanted to, are those who are going to essentially pull it together when it really matters at the back end of the season. And I don't think that's to necessarily forgive, because at points this year they have been genuinely very poor. I don't think that's unfair to say. But they are now that team that we're down to the last four, so you don't really want to play anyone, but yeah, they've got some real power there, and they seem to be starting to click. So sets up a beauty in the semis, which we'll talk about in just a moment. That was kind of it for that game. The only other thing you mentioned, Jaminet's kicking. I didn't realise that
the port of Toulon. I always assumed it was at sea level, but apparently it's a serious altitude.
Yeah.
Jaminet kicked one over from about 62 meters on the angle or something with distance to spare. It looked miles.
It was he hit like the back, he hit the crowd on the full. It was, I reckon, 54 meters I had it written down as, but I reckon it's got another 10 meters in it. Like he has
it.
That flew. A couple of other nice bits from this game. Talking of Rog, I think we saw him smile or laugh for the first time this season when Will Skelton called a mark inside his own 22. And for a brief moment, everyone thought he was going to go for the big spiral punt to clear his lines. But there was a very, very awkward tap into his own hands and shoveling it off to a quite desperate Tawariko Barlow, who was panicking at the thought of Will Skelton doing a punt. And obviously, Richard, I suppose before Toulon were pretty good. There was, talking of Skelton, there was a massive collision between him and Big Brian Alonuisi at one point. But they took a long time to get Fainganuku into the game. When they did, he carried about 3 times in the space of a minute, and he looked so physical. But generally, they just La Rochelle's defense just suffocated them. It was brilliant defending. I don't think it was particularly bad Toulon attack. I think it was just so physical at the gain line, and Toulon were, Serran was trying to spark absolutely anything or whatever he could. But we shouldn't be surprised that Toulon did not win this game, because we saw, Richard, a thing of beauty, didn't we? A thing that we've suspected all season and we've had snippets of all season. But the Pierre Mignoni clipboard was entirely blank. It had a table and it had attack and defense on half a page, each given half a page, and absolutely zero other words on there. It was just, I've looked at that photo so many times and I just chuckle to myself every time. We've joked about that. We did see the other side of the clipboard at one point, and I think it was just a list of players' names, and it said 13 GIFs, which is exactly how many GIFs they had. So, but the blank clipboard was just so perfect.
To get a full frontal view for the last viewing of the season is amazing. Well, obviously, next year we'll look forward. We'll keep all the listeners abreast of every sighting of Pierre Mignoni's clipboard.
There's more to it than this. That they had a lovely, the French love an arty pre-game slow-mo. There was one with clipboard in the right hand, walkie-talkie in the left, big 4-way biro sticking out the mouth. It was.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
just sensational.
Marlboro Red in the mouth, something like that.
No, but it's the fact that it's accompanied by a big 4-way biro as well, just really tops it off.
Yeah, I think actually, if you said it's an attack and defense, but I think actually on the left-hand side it's like shopping list, and on the right there's just a game of noughts and crosses that he's yet to start with his opposite number. What a guy! But look, I mean, Toulon, I think was it in the week they announced they've re-signed, like Ribbons has extended.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys are staying. They're bringing in some decent names. Like it's, I don't know. They're not my favourite club, but they're only going to make the league stronger if they're back to where they were. And I think they'll fire some shots next year for sure. Right, Barrage 1 done. Barrage 2.
Game over by about 50 minutes. I reckon.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Like, look, we thought that the gulf in class between Bordeaux and Racing has been been pretty evident for a while. Like we said, we thought Racing, okay, they've come 6th ahead of some pretty good teams, albeit very narrowly, but they felt a pretty distant 6th compared to the 5 other sides that were up there. And again, 31-17 doesn't really it was not a two scores game in terms of the relative comfort. I mean, they stayed in touch a bit in the first half, but yeah, like I don't really know what more there is to say.
They stayed in touch, but that was because Tristan Tedder slotted one from 62 meters and another from 55 meters. It's not like they were banging on the door. Okay, UBB have had to give away a penalty to keep out the try. They were like
on the Atlantic, also serious altitudes, obviously.
Yeah,
something in the air, mate. I'm telling you,
it's next to the river, pretty much. I think there was a wind, I think, but the Tedder one was 62 meters and he cleared that pretty comfortably. Like genuinely 62 meters. But the fact that that was all they had to keep them in the game. Like in the first half was Tristan Tedder kicking goals from his own half. And Ube Bay didn't even have to be that good. Like it was the breakdown penalties and the maul penalties. It didn't feel like they were kind of relentless and we've got to give away a penalty here, because we felt a little bit like Racing had been given an instruction to like push the boat out a bit, or kind of see how close we can push the ref, but without really doing it particularly effectively or aggressively. They were just kind of getting it wrong. And Bordeaux were just able to piggyback up the field and had enough within them to score tries. You know, as soon as Tambwe got a little bit of space, he's got the gas to get outside Tedder. He brushed off Gilbert.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Like he is so good, Tambwe.
Such a shame he's going to Montpellier.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, I wouldn't say Bordeaux certainly weren't at their kind of emphatic best. Like Tambwe was great. We mentioned him before. Maxime Lamotte had a great game again. Hooker, but it felt like they never quite had to get out of third or fourth gear, to be honest with you. And to be honest, as a barrage match, it's probably worked out pretty nicely. I know Big Ben went off, didn't look in great shapes, did he?
That could be pretty key, because Kalashvili, I know you were singing his praises last week, got minced at a couple of scrums by Collingar and then by Gokishashvili. And also he missed the tackle for the break for Tedder to set up the Max Spring try. He gave away a pretty poor penalty as well at another time. Like he just looked off the pace, kind of like he did in that Quins game, just looked not very good. And Big Ben, by comparison, looked phenomenal when he was on. And is just, you know, when he's on it, he is a hell of a player. And when you think the size of that Paris pack with the Aloe Emile brothers, they could just completely shut them down. I know we're going to kind of go on to the previews, but
no, you're right. Look, not mass more to say about this. You might have a bit saved up for the Petit-Fours, but we can always address it now. There's been a bit of fallout at Racing after this game. You see some of the comments from their president, whose name I'm going to get up now. Jack Lorenzetti.
Jackie Lorenzetti, yeah. I haven't seen the comments,
no. Come out and said, well, he's had two players in his line of fire, one of which was Sia Khaleesi.
Oh, yeah, nice, yeah.
Oh,
Sia
so
Khaleesi. And I'm going to guess the other one is one of Gail Fiku or Cameron Mocky.
Incorrect. Oh. So Sia Khaleesi, basically, the translations I've seen and the bits I tried to read, I don't know exactly but worse the effect of he hasn't been great. He put on weight at the start of the year. He outwardly said he put on 5 or 6 kilos and he was out of shape. And then bizarrely, he basically said he was anonymous against Bordeaux, which
he was.
Yeah, he was. But then he's gone.
He did like a cool offload on like 73 minutes, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot about him. Forgot he was on the pitch.
He's then kind of called him out. He's like made this bizarre comparison to Wenceslas Lorre, saying like we used to have this warrior back row and all this sort of thing. It feels for a bloke who's still under contract, as much as look, I think I think some of the criticism, it's not entirely unjust, is is a little bit strange. Very much saw a couple of tweets from the French rugby journalists saying very much falls into that slightly tiresome stereotype of big mouth French presidents who get it wrong.
Always on
and the other one, which I do think is very strange, was Joshua Tuisova, who only played 5 games off the back of, well, a brilliant World Cup campaign and an awful injury. And off the back of, I think, losing his dad and his son in the space of about a month. And he's played 5 matches. And look, he's maybe not been quite as that sort of brutally powerful, machine as we've seen in the past. But I thought he was all right against Bordeaux. He was pretty industrious and he hasn't played that much rugby.
He scored within a minute of his debut, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Who was that against? Against Lyon? Was that Bayonne?
Do you know why? They didn't get him into the game, or why he didn't do much?
Gilbert wasn't great
because Gael Fickou hates passing. It's staggering. And now that you've seen it, you won't unsee it. Like, he just doesn't pass the ball. Like, he doesn't even when he makes a break, he doesn't pass the ball. Like, he has to wait for an offload.
I can recall the break where he doesn't.
There was like a couple of them in this game, but it was the same last week. He just doesn't pass the ball. Like, and it's not helped by the Racing attack was just shapeless. Like, it was just, there was no dummy runners. There was no kind of arrowhead formations. There was no bringing it to the line and pulling it back. Like, another 12, which is what Fickou should be doing, is taking it to the line and, either running a hard dummy line or pulling it back. And he's just doing what he wants. And then, don't get me wrong, like, his breaks when he steps back on the inside is phenomenal, and he's still a very silky runner, but just so selfish. He struggled a bit of late, isn't he? But I've always loved Fickou, so you might have tarnished it for me. Now I won't be able to unsee it. Hopefully the next time I see him play, he throws like a worldy 30-yard double miss, and we can put that rumor to bed. But it wouldn't. It doesn't surprise me. Racing just hasn't been able to do much because he's not got the ball. They've not brought him into the game.
Yeah, the whole thing just stinks a bit of a club in, certainly not freefall, but just they just seem a bit all over the place. There's rumours of them having to offload Le Garrec, who's by far and away their best player because of salary cap reasons, and then you've got Khaleesi, the highest paid player in the top 14, supposedly. It's all just stinks of some pretty poor management. So
big signings next year though.
Good luck, Owen Farrell.
Owen Farrell, Roman Tafa-Fanua,
Sam James.
Really?
Sam James, yeah. I'm pretty sure I saw that earlier. I'll verify
They must have been listening last week when we said they needed some more nuts and bolts, consistent non-GIFs like Tristan Tedder. I feel like Sam James falls into that category quite nicely.
Yeah, I've always liked Sam James. I think
I prefer Sam James to Gael Fickou, personally.
Big cool. Right, looking ahead, let's not look backwards anymore. Looking ahead to next week, two cracking. There's always going to be cracking games this time of year, but it's Friday and Saturday, both in Bordeaux.
Yeah, which I think is actually quite key because you've got 6-day turnarounds for the teams in the barrage. So there's a lot of conjecture about, Bordeaux have ended up with a home semi, even though it's not, because it's at Moot Atlantique, so it's not at Stade Chaban-Delmas, which they kept saying on commentary. But ultimately, I think the advantage comes from the fact they haven't had Bordeaux have got a 6-day turnaround. Similarly, La Rochelle have got a 6-day turnaround, and they've both come off the back of pretty grueling seasons.
Yeah, I think that if you're Bordeaux and you make it, I'd say you're pretty happy that of all the places you could play on neutral turf, you're playing at the Moot Atlantique, where you've beaten Toulouse already this year. They could say you've got Stade Francais, but so I think the first one is Toulouse La Rochelle, right, on the Friday night.
Suddenly looks a lot tighter, doesn't it? If you'd asked me
It
this
does.
2 weeks ago, I would have said this is one-way traffic.
It does. It does look tighter. I mean, I think we know there's no point listing them all off. Like, we know the qualities of Toulouse. Like, they're the best team in Europe. They're probably the best club team in the world. I think
Possibly the
going
best
back,
club team ever. I reckon if they win the double this
yeah,
year, they're up there.
could be,
That's in
could
Europe
be.
anyway.
Yeah, could overtake the 2020 COVID era Exeter Chiefs, but don't know. Yeah, they've been amazing. I think you go back, the thing that makes me think the turnaround is one massive thing. Like, to go away to the Mile, turn that on, is, yeah, like it's a quick turnaround after a big physical match. But the last time they played, I mean, they drew with Toulouse, didn't they? But it was very much seconds and thirds versus full noise.
Yeah.
So look, I think Toulouse probably get there reasonably comfortably in the end, would be my guess. But I think it will probably be nip tuck for a decent par. And what I do wonder if just that fatigue element might not start to sneak in towards the end and they pull away. I think it could be as simple as that. Yeah, I don't know if I would have said maybe La Rochelle might have had the nudge at scrum time a bit. Like, Toulouse haven't been, they're a good pack, but you wouldn't say they're like a destructive scrummaging team.
Yeah. Although Wardy
Like,
struggled at the weekend.
yeah, he did. That's why I'm saying, in theory, you think Wardy, Antonio, like Colombe absolutely minces people off the bench as well. But I would have said maybe that was the area that they might get a bit of purchase and they'd need to. But I just think, based off how Wardy went at the weekend, I don't know if that is a trump card.
Had a long injury, didn't he?
Yeah. What do you reckon? Any other? La Rochelle by 60?
Yeah, probably. I think Toulouse are there's just so much synchronicity, isn't there? In their play, and it's interesting to see how they fare. Like, because some of those players will have basically had like a 4-week break. I can't imagine just the way they play and the way it all seems to fit together. At no point have any of them looked rusty whenever they've had a break. So I just think they'll probably just cruise back into it and hit their straps pretty well. There are fewer flaws in the La Rochelle lineup than there perhaps might have thought a few weeks ago. You know, Doulan's back as well. He's the other key player for them. The line out still isn't great. Tolu Latu is not the best thrower, as Paul Gustard was willing to stick the knife in a few weeks back on commentary. They're still missing Bougret, whereas from what I can tell, Toulouse have the only hookers in the top 14 that can consistently throw straight. So
two of the best hookers in the world. It's useful, isn't it? I think Toulouse are run out, but I think it'll be a cracker. I think Ogar is always going to have something a little bit up his sleeve, isn't he? And they've almost come from nowhere a little bit, La Rochelle, in the last month or so. So I think they'll stick with for a period of time, and then I guess you never know, do you? And then the other game I think is maybe on paper, like initially not quite so interesting, but it could be an absolute crack at this. Bordeaux, as you say, a little bit of a trump card in Bordeaux, but against Stade Francais. Again, it was only a few weeks ago they played in the league in Paris. And we've spoken about Stade Francais' defence all year. It's been brilliant. It's the best in the league, I think, statistically.
Yeah.
Like Marshall by Ward and Marchand in the centres have been awesome. And they really made Bordeaux start to do weird things and uncomfortable things, and to the point where they kind of fizzled out. And I think they only won the game by 5 points in the end, but they just couldn't land a proper shot in the second half. And I think it just makes it really fascinating. And you mentioned the scrum earlier, and that could be a massive weapon in this one.
I think this I mean, I never thought I would say this earlier in the season, but I actually think Stade Francais could win this one fairly comfortably. I think it's going to be... Actually, no, it will be tight, but I am backing Stade Francais on this because the set piece, basically, I think, just looking at the lineup from that Bordeaux game, how strong was it? It was all right. It's a pretty strong team, though, actually, that lost away at Stade Jean-Bouin. I just think that the strength of that pack, the strength of the defence, the scrum and line out, I think is going to be so key for Stade Francais. And I wonder if they'll just be able to stop them at source, especially if Big Ben is injured and it looked nasty, like it looked like a kind of nasty shoulder injury, it getting trapped at the bottom of ruck. I think that could be key. And you've also got to factor in that, he wasn't really tested and they weren't really tested as a pairing this week because they didn't have to get out of third year gear. But how is Garcia going to go against him when he's not on the front foot? I thought Luku was brilliant at the weekend. I thought the kind of moments of magic and the game management did come from Luku. But I just think that after their most recent performance, the one at Toulon at home, I thought they were really good, and I've kind of done a bit of a 180 on Stade Francais, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight. I think I would, particularly if Ben Tamafuna plays, I think I would maybe nudge it towards Bordeaux. I think that the home crowd or semi or three-quarter home crowd, whatever you want to call it, it will make a bigger difference than you might expect, but I think it will make a big could be a real swaying factor. We know they can click and cut anyone apart from anywhere, but I don't know, can they do it? You look at all the cliches around big games, you need to defend well and your set piece needs to be on top, and objectively you'd say Stade Francais are probably better placed to deliver those. But we've seen, I keep going back to it, that amazing game a few months ago, like Bordeaux beat Toulouse. Their defence it's in that game at the Matmut Atlantique was phenomenal. They can do it against anyone, and it's just whether they can click and whether they can hold up a set piece. Because you're right, particularly the Allo Emile brother, absolutely ridiculous players. And if there is one thing, as we've discussed a million times, that can totally turn a game on its head, is if you fully boss the scrum. And I can see it happening. But Bordeaux to shade it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to rule it out. I think that backline is stunning. I think I love Buros. And with him and Deporter back, they've got another game under their belts that will help. But I think I've just got a feeling about Stade. I think this comes at a really bad time for Bordeaux.
Yeah. No, it's going to be class. I can't wait. Friday night as well. That is what a touch that is. The Toulouse La Rochelle game. Going to be fantastic. Right. Top 14 barrage done and dusted. Semi-finals to come. We will move on to an eventful, to put it mildly, access match in just a moment. Right, last Saturday, the access match took place. The playoff to get into Pro D2 or stay in the top 14 down in Grenoble. Grenoble hosted Montpellier at the Stade des Alpes. And by the skin of their teeth, the Montpellier Madness retained their top 14 status and narrowly avoid one of the all-time administrative meltdowns, although there's been some fallout of this as well. Did you catch much of this? I think we were both following it as much as we could. Just pretty, in the end, I've got to say, pretty gutted for Grenoble. Felt
robbed, mate. Absolutely
deflated. Robbed. The penalty at the end.
I can't see how that, from the highlights I've seen, I cannot see what that penalty is even being awarded for.
Yeah,
Any
I don't
ideas?
know.
If anything, it looks like a kind of croc roll, neck roll on Sam Davis. He looks like his knee gets absolutely destroyed. Also, I don't know how. I mean, it's everyone's favorite ref or not, Tual Trinini.
I love Tronini.
Um, quite how he didn't go to the TMO for the Ben Lam try in the first half is beyond me.
Yeah, maybe.
I've tried to like pause it at the exact moment, and it's so close to his hand. If it hits your abdomen, is it a knock on? I think it is, isn't it?
I think abdomen is, yeah. Head and face isn't, is it?
Yeah, and thigh wouldn't be. But
Yeah.
I mean, hip bone. Where do we talk? Like, I reckon it probably touches his hip bone and possibly his hand.
Maybe. Look, I don't know. I don't want
That Ben Lam try where it's like it's kicked through and he kind of
It's like-
rubbers it. It
it's
just
like
doesn't look like a try. Like, at the very least, go to TMO because it just doesn't look or feel like a try. There's about 4 different times where he could have touched it with his hand to knock it on.
It was a bit like the try I was telling you about for Bayonne the week before, or was it 4-1 against Bayonne? Who beat them?
Cast.
Cash against Bayonne. It was like the equivalent of a goal mouth scramble in football. The ball's just like ping ponging around, and I don't want to bag refs too much. There's plenty of other things going on, but
Grenoble were robbed. They were robbed.
They were robbed. Oh, I don't know if they were robbed, but it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that that's the kind of end point. The way it started, I was able to follow it a little bit more at the start, and so Montpellier go out to not like a massive lead. They scored 2 reasonably early tries, didn't they? One, the pinball ends up with Ben Lam and Ungan Debe, who in a few WhatsApp messages, you're thinking like he is one of those players who can just cut sides open from absolutely nowhere. And so it proved a little bit, but
that was Ben Lam as well. That was a lovely kind of offload. He kind of powered through someone, didn't he? An offload, and Gandebe is just there, and you're just not catching him from
he's
that distance.
rapid, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's so fast. But as ever, I mean, I don't know when or if there are awards, but you would think Sam Davis, like what a season he's had. And he was at the heart of everything, really, wasn't he? Like his kicking, again, delightful. And then the try, the 2 tries, aren't there? Both, oh my God, I forgot his name, the hooker.
Barnaby Massa.
No, it was Hepatima.
Yeah, he's a centre. Hepatima is a centre.
Why have I got, in my notes, I've got...
Hepatima did score. Hepatima scored the crossfield kick.
I feel like I've had an absolute meltdown here. It was Hepatima who scored the crossfield kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he's not a hooker.
No, sorry. And then, but was it the hooker who scored the first
Barnaby
try?
Massa.
It was,
they
sorry.
Like minced a driving ball from about 20 metres out.
Yeah, just as I've minced my description there, but it was like one of those just so good, like the destructive rolling maul where there's just like defending bodies flailing out the side and getting run over.
It's one of those ones where they're sprinting. Like the attacking team. Barnaby Massa he'll be, I'm pretty sure he's still young enough. He played in the Six Nations. He'll be playing in the Under-20s World Cup. He scored loads of tries this season.
Yeah, he's we called him out, not called him out, that's not the right word, but he had a couple of opportunities, didn't he, in the game against Van. But that was class. And the Hepatima try, the kick from Davis, like he's pretty flat to the line, isn't he? It's not like a nice penalty advantage all the time in the world play.
He spots it as well. He's clapping for the ball. He wants it and he gets it and he's pretty flat and it's a perfectly well weighted kick.
Yeah.
He could teach Antoine Joubert a thing or two about crossfield kicks, I think. I didn't know Terence Hepatima was at Grenoble. Can't say I'm a huge fan of his. He's got a pretty ropey track record of some pretty disgusting high shots, I have to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking of this because he's obviously, I mean, he's played all over the place.
Irish, wasn't he?
Irish for ages. I think he started out at the Waratahs or somewhere like that. But I'm just thinking now, he's only played So that was his 7th match this year for Grenoble. Rounds 1, 3, 7, 19, 20, 21. And he hadn't played for 4 months before before that. So assume he was injured or was being a wrong in somewhere, maybe got banned for some more of those high shots. But yeah, it's gutting for Grenoble. Like I really thought there would be way more daylight between these two sides than this. Maybe that was a bit optimistic on behalf of Montpellier, who've been awful at points. But like I mean, the fact that they've snuck it in the 77th minute, it still feels ridiculous that a side with that sort of quality should be in that position.
Needed their goal kicker to have 100% day.
Yeah.
To win
goal
by
kicker
1 point.
who has as I've been particularly keen to flag, has had some real rogue moments at the end of games as well. I mean, I guess he's done it when it matters.
I'm generally the one that is willing to call people out more between the two of us. But you've been pretty brutal in your analysis of Louis Carbonell all season, Richard, and he's got the last laugh on you this time.
Mate, he's done me. He was giving it the full like Nasser Hussain to the press box. Yeah, apparently he's I said we've
was he doing like a beard gesture?
Well, I think we had 6 Spotify reviews that were all 5 stars, and as of this morning, there's one that's 4 stars. Apparently, that was Louis Carbonell.
Yeah,
just taking the shine off. But yeah, look, credit where it's due. No, I like him as a player, but there's just been some rogue kicks at the end.
It's mercurial because he can be brilliant. He's one of those.
He's still younger than I thought as well. He's only like 25 or something. Yeah, feels like he's been around forever. But yeah, like how do we...
Melvin Jaminet is 24 or 23 even.
No, I didn't know that. I thought he was much older.
Frighteningly young.
How do we sum this up? Montpellier, they live to fight another day. They've potentially got some big name recruits, we think, coming in, some of which sound pretty good. You have Tambways, some of which Hogg, Vunapola. I don't know.
I think the one thing for this is we said that the kind of class of Reinach and Serfontaine would come through, and it looks like Serfontaine had a pretty good game. Reinach was off after 44 minutes. Virat Kohli came on, but yeah, they didn't sparkle, did they? Kind of
no.
They do finish the season green in the GIFs, so they actually had 17, and I think they only needed 16 for that. Because we were stunned to not see Rosby's favourite Sam Simmons.
Yeah,
there. I wonder if that was a GIF based selection. Perhaps they were. I mean, they've got to get it right. Like it's all very well, kind of saying, "Oh, for the one-off game, we didn't have all of our GIFs," but you kind of got to have your right number across the season. So it's kind of.
Yeah, and they've got some seriously good back rows as well, haven't they? Like it's not like you're bringing in someone crap. Grenoble. I mean, you would think everything about Grenoble feels top 14-y. Have you seen
the spectator numbers for this at all? The attendance.
It was a sellout, wasn't it?
It looked a sellout. I just don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen the official figure, but I'm pretty sure it was a sellout, and there were no returns from Montpellier.
Wow, I couldn't see any spaces, and there weren't any obvious gaps in the crowd from the highlight side.
So it holds 20,068 precisely. So yeah, it feels bigger than that. The stadium, it's a really impressive place. But yeah, like I think. You do wonder. I know they got to the final, but I don't know. Their points deduction took them a little while to get going. They've finished so strong. Like I think them beating Van was them losing to Van wasn't an upset, but they probably weren't quite the form team that Van were. I think I think they'll be back. I don't think this is I don't think it's a flash in the pan. Obviously, is that 2 years in a row they've lost the access match?
Yeah.
Lost the Perpignan the year before. Yeah, be
They were
interested.
dusted by Perpignan, though, weren't they?
Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much, but I'd be interested to see if they pick up some names there next year. I wouldn't be surprised to see one or two pretty high quality signings ending up at Grenoble. All right,
just a little quick revisit on Pro de Deux.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing about Grenoble in particular?
Go on.
Steve
Blank
Clipboard. I could be wrong on this. In fact, let me verify, but I believe Steve Blank Clipboard played the maximum number of games you possibly could for Grenoble this year. He played all 30 rounds of the regular season, qualifying, semi-finals, Pro de Deux final, and access match. He had 34 matches. He didn't start in one of them. He came off the bench against the Biarritz away. 33 starts, but one half on the bench.
I mean, there's the captain's innings, and then there's that. Like,
ridiculous.
How many tries he scored as well?
Ooh.
Loves hanging out wide, doesn't he?
How many tries? 9.
That's pretty good, isn't it, for a back row?
Not a bad effort, yeah. 9, 1 yellow card. Yeah. Steve, what a boy.
I just want to very quickly revisit our Instagram post from the 5th of April, which was our Pro de Deux table predictions. As you might guess, Richard, we were unable to predict the unpredictable. I actually said Van would win. We both did, sorry. And also you predicted Provence to go top. It might have also been, you might have had a bit of help from Reese. This might have been while you were away. The good news is that we both, I think, did better than the lazy assumption that the home team always wins. Nice. So despite Pro de Deux being the home of the home win, it seems that is not actually entirely the case, and you can't just lazily assume that the home team will always win, because ultimately Pro de Deux is the unpredictable. We did get the bottom two right, and that's pretty much all. And we beat the lazy assumption on Grenoble. We both said they would come 8th, and the lazy assumption would have got them 10th. Obviously, they came 4th, so we were quite some way off.
Yeah,
but yeah, we got it. We called Van right, so we can be happy with ourselves there. At the very least.
Beat the machine.
We beat the machine that we created. But yes,
nice.
Well done, us.
Sweet. Bruno will be back to fight another day, I have no doubt. Montpellier, who knows? Right, little interlude. Or well, you found something pre-interlude.
No,
like you've just seen something.
No, I was just laughing at the fact that who knows what Montpellier might do next.
Right, well, have a very quick break and be back to discuss a little bit of international rugby, believe it or not. Back in a second. Right, Rob, I know you've been keeping a particularly keen eye on this. This is really your kind of bag. And keep me honest here, because I might have got some of the details a bit wrong. But Fabien Gauthier has announced an initial provisional 32-man training squad for France's tour to South America. Because it's not just Argentina, is it? It's Argentina and Uruguay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a trip that is.
It is Saturday the 6th of July at Argentina, Wednesday the 10th of July against Uruguay, Saturday the 13th of July against Argentina. So they've got 3 games in 8. Yeah, 3 games in 8 days, which is, potentially phenomenal.
Is that for Montevideo, I assume?
I'm going to check that, because that's a hell of a lot of travel. If
Yeah.
I feel like it didn't even have a time on it.
Anyhow, but the
It is in
fascinating thing
Montpellier, yeah.
is that there are no players named in the squad currently. Teams that are involved in the top 14 semi-finals and then final. And remind me, so what is the eventual state of play? Like, so a lot of the guys who played in the World Cup last year, for instance, are going to be rested. Oh, wow.
Here we go. Some color coding
Wow.
for you, Richard.
So yeah.
Yes, it's going to be a 42-man squad, which will be announced on the 23rd, which I believe is Sunday or Monday.
Almost enough to send one to Argentina and one to Uruguay. It's like a Lions tour.
Yeah. Well, they've got a couple of weeks at least. So here is the list of players that you can see, Rich. But I've also done a players missing. Now, I've been a little bit generous on a few of them in terms of, guys that are probably not quite there, but given the kind of names that we're seeing in this France squad, could be in the reckoning. The likes of Cremont, who was ultimately third choice hooker at Toulouse. Cyril Cazot plays regularly for Bordeaux. Bocheton and Bastien Verne at Bordeaux in the back row. So there's a few kind of generous things. However, there are potentially 53 players I've got in this list who are out of the reckoning just by virtue of playing for one of Toulouse, Stade Francais, UBB, or La Rochelle.
So they are, so just to confirm, and for anyone who's listening and not watching this, Rob has produced a very ornate spreadsheet with this all detailed. All of those semi-final finalists will not be touring.
No, the finalists will not be touring.
Fine. So you've got two.
But the current 32-man squad is missing 53 players.
Wow.
Plus the likes of Charles Olivon, Nolan Le Garrec, Gael Ficou. Those are the Roman Talfa-Fanua. Those are the kind of obvious ones that played in the Six Nations. There's a few other names that seem to have not made the cut, the likes of Chalareau, Valemce is injured, Abadi's injured, Le Garrec's injured. Then you've got kind of Woki potentially been dropped, Camille Chan not picked, Sebastian Talfa-Fanua, Gilbert was in the Six Nations squad. He's not made the cut.
No, Villiers.
Oh, that's a great shout, Richard. Well done. Good spot. I'll add him to my list. Dumortier was in the Six. He's another one I've not got on there. So there's a hell of a lot of players that aren't available. And you're looking at the quality of some of those players. It's obviously Tony D, Entamac, Ramos, Miafu, Flamon, two hookers, a quality. Francois Cross is probably the player of Six Nations for France. Greg Aldrit, the other captain. You've got a hell of a lot of Weenie Antonio. There's some real big names not available. The basically the whole Bordeaux backline as well is star-studded. So I guess the thing to think about there is a few of these. If Bordeaux and La Rochelle do get knocked out, there could be a few players joining up with the squad. I don't know whether the likes of Penaud and Luku and PLBRA, the fact that they play quite a lot of rugby, and Murfana, they've played quite a lot of rugby this year, whether they would go, whether the likes of Maxime Lamotte, who is uncapped, Hugo Boniface, Jegu from La Rochelle, whether those guys would kind of get a bit of a run. But generally, I don't think there's going to be kind of loads of names added that are star-studded names. Few names I wanted to pick up on from the squad that's announced. If anyone's not seen it, there's a few names that I had to Google just to remind myself who they were. Notable one, Regis Montagna.
Yes.
Tight head prop from Grenoble. So Alex Buran, don't know what happened to him, called up.
Only space for one Pro Day tight head at a time.
That's an interesting one. 23-year-old tight. The tight heads are interesting generally. So you've got Bamba, who's been there before but flattered to deceive. Laclaya, who's been there before but flattered to deceive. You've then got Regis Montagna plucked out of Pro Day 2, and Tavita Tatafu, the 150 kilo 21-year-old Tongan, who has been in France since 2019 and is therefore now French. Very, very excited to see Tatafu play, I have to say. I think he'll probably get capped. The other interesting area I thought was hooker, because France have got loads of amazing hookers, and yet none of these hookers. Gaëtan Barlow I really like. Barbigny has been good for Toulon, I'd say. He's captain there this season, but Yannick Tarrant is like third choice at Racing, behind Shah and Nasir, I think it is, the Fijian bloke. That's an interesting one. And also, because of the players missing, 10 is the other interesting one, because you've got no Entomac, no Ramos, who played at 10, Barrage can fit in at 10, Jalibert's injured, Hastor is La Rochelle, he might go now, Royce is La Rochelle, Joris Sagons, would he be in line with it? So they have your man Louis Carbonell,
yes,
and Leo Birdo, the only two fly halves from the 13th and 12th or 11th ranked sides in the league this year. So, amazing kind of sudden lack of depth. It's a very young side. I think the likes of Shah, Chalaron, maybe. I wonder if there's a few guys in that list of players missed out. Maybe Villiers is in that as well, but just a bit old, maybe. But Lucas Ray was the one I was the Poe hooker. I think he's been really good this season. I would have thought he's better than Yannick Tarrant. But there's it's a very young squad. When we were talking about 9 options last week, we managed to forget the sensational Baptiste Saran and the top try scorer in the top 14 by quite some way, Baptiste Couillou. So despite the fact that they've got 2 or 3 quality 9s unavailable, well, probably 4 if you include Grau.
The riches of 9 are just ridiculous.
Couillou, Saran, Junot. I mean, what Wales would give for any one of them. Or Italy for that matter. Anything else that stands out for you? Obviously, I think to see Atis Ogbe in there.
Yeah, we love Atis Ogbe. How young he is, 19, man. Like, it's incredible. I think sometimes it's a bit, I mentioned the Lions a minute ago, it's a little bit like when, there's summer tours to the USA and stuff like that, when there's a Lions tour on. And one which was also to Argentina 6-7 years ago. Eddie Jones took a side to Argentina.
Absolutely love that tour.
Yeah, it was all on BBC, and the kickoffs were like 10 p.m, so you could watch it after a few beers in the cricket.
And they were like 40-35 thrillers as well.
Yeah, but there was, that was when like Tom Curry, I think, made his debut. There was that's the one that really stands out. Maybe like a Charlie Ewels, he's 40 caps. Like some of these guys are gonna go on to really big things. There's also some real rogues, I'm pretty sure, on that tour, like Jacques Maunder, who's now going to Argentina and Pro Day was on that, and cap. Denny Solomona played a few games.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like these are
Will Collier got his only
Will Collier, which is just ridiculous. The fact that he's not played more. But yeah, I just think it's cool, isn't it? Because some of these guys will go on to some massive stuff. I think the ones that I don't know if they stand out as such, but just a couple of players that I really like. One, Julio, the cast wing's been great this year. Tends to have a little bit of turnover on the wing as well. France generally, like a little bit like kind of the All Blacks have had over the years. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of these guys get like a slightly bit of a run at some point. As much as we know how amazing Pinot is, Biarray, then they have little chinks in the armor, and I wonder if that might open up some opportunities elsewhere. And the guy who I think is absolutely amazing, part of the Montpellier madness, is Lenny Nucci. Yeah. I know that's not new news. He's been unbelievable for a while, but it wasn't 2 years ago. It was last year. It was the first time I saw him was in that knockout game against Exeter, and he came off the bench and in a pretty congested field, probably looked like the best forward on the pitch the time he was on. He was absolutely everywhere, and he was only 19 at the time. He's been captaining Montpellier kind of basically since they've been in the shit to try and get them out. Yeah. I think he is one of those that you would look at and be like, I think could be the real deal at some point. On that note, and just what is I don't think he was on your list. Is Gazzotti at Bordeaux injured?
He's injured. I forgot. I forgot about him. But yeah, he was going to go on my list.
Oh, he's class as well. But yeah, beautiful. Like, mate, great bit of work. Look forward to seeing this updated next week when we know a bit more about who can join him.
Interesting one, Hugo Oradu, just with my Section Palois hat on. 20-year-old second row. Looks pretty lightweight, but a lot of noise around him. I think his dad played for France, possibly. He certainly played professionally as a big second row. Yeah, looking for. I think he might get some game time, actually. And just the general, you pointed out, Teo Atisogbe is 19, as is Pasola Tuolangi. I think they are the only two that are still eligible for the under-20s that aren't going to the under-20s. I think Oradu might now be too old. Nucci is definitely too old because he didn't play in the Six Nations, as is Junot. But Tuolangi is still 19. They could still be going to
amazing,
the under-20s World Cup with
him
and Atisogbe, which is kind of
that is amazing.
But it's going to be very exciting. I've no idea if I mean, bearing in mind we can't get the England v Japan game on TV, I'd be amazed about. Hopefully, Premier Sports will do us a solid.
Might be able to find a way. But, I think the England Japan game's on Rugby Pass for free.
Yeah, so it might be on that.
Earlier. We'll see. I'm sure we can find some dodgy stream somewhere. Alrighty, well, thanks for the rundown. It'd be really interesting to see what happens next week. I think when those teams get updated, because some of those blokes who have not played for France are going to have to play some test matches, which is great fun. Back in a sec to finish with Petit-Fours and a couple of Digestifs. Petit-Fours. I've got a few bits. I haven't seen anything too weird and wacky and wonderful, but just a lot going on, I think it's fair to say. Do you want to start us off? What have you got on your
number one on my list? As you might be able to guess, Richard, from my hat and my t-shirt, the big news of the week, which has taken us all episode to get to. Johnny May is going to Soya Angoulême. What a time to be alive. Amazing news, isn't it? England's second highest ever try scorer in international rugby, going to the outpost incredible. In the Cognac region, or the Charente of Soya Angoulême. And I cannot wait. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing for Pro de Deux. As a Pro de Deux fan and a Sax V fan, amazing. I think it's fair play to Johnny May. Like, how many English players, how many Gloucester players will have heard of Soya Angoulême?
Oh, loads of them now. They'll be following him there. Yeah, it's class, isn't it? It's a 2-year deal as well, so he's in for the long haul. It's brilliant. Like they're I would say probably almost more than any of the club games I've been to. I don't think anything kind of typifies what makes it great fun than that place. Pile them in, few merguez sausages, big giant snail wandering around, getting involved with everything. It's class.
Don Lesieux Emily and Pena Bayona blaring out afterwards. Yeah,
it's a great town. It's good. Yeah, it's awesome. It's great for the profile of the league. I feel like I think he'll probably do pretty well. Johnny May,
a very consummate professional, isn't he?
In Pro Data.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it's such a tight league every year. It could really change their fortunes. If I could do it without copyright infringement, I would definitely start playing Liberty X's seminal tune. celebrate the move to Sax V. But we'll say that for another time. Massive news, love it. What else have you got?
I've got a few rumours. Bayonne, how many centres do they need? Because they've got Reece Hodge, they're getting Manu Tuolangi, they've got Guillaume Martok, they've got Alberto Aguero, that one, who's just signed re-signed a deal. Rumours of Stuart McCloskey and Francis Saili.
Wow. All very much of a fairly clear blueprint in terms of the centres as well.
I'd love to see Stuart McCloskey play alongside Manu Tuolangi. Quite where Reece Hodge fits into that, I don't know, but I've always been a big fan of Stuart McCloskey. I'd love to see him in the top 14 because he doesn't
Federico Mori to start steamrolling people as well. Blimey, Bayonne are going all out, aren't they?
My other one, well, it's just a weird. That feels very Leicester kind of 2017. Just let's put all of our salary cap into one position. Argentina going down the tactic, but not with centres, with fly halves. How many fly halves they need? Because we know they've signed Billy Searle. I assume Ben Volavola is staying. They've got Thomas Vincent. Rumours of Luis Forsans going from Montpellier to Argentina, which is an interesting one. Other Argentina rumour, Joe Quere-Caraba, who is currently at Toulon, played in the under-20s. I thought was absolutely sensational. Rumours of him going to Argentina from Toulon. I would be surprised if Toulon let him go, though, because I thought he was very good. But that was kind of my rumours anyway. Confirmed signings. Thibaut Debais, a guy that I've been trumpeting for Van, has confirmed staying at Van.
Excellent.
Managed to get out of his contract at Biarritz. He's there. He's only 22. Played really well all year. He'll be there till 2027. And talking of Biarritz, I can't remember his first name. Paul Farsalele, the old geezer that used to play at USAP. He's been at Toulouse this year. Is going to Biarritz next season.
Ah, nice. Right. I'm going to start with Biarritz as well. And I'm not going to read them out, but you can find it on Twitter. So the French newspaper. So this was highlighted and noted by one of the cracking journalists, French rugby, Iltud Dafith, who knows, maybe at some point we'll be hearing more from him. He has found an article. Oh, it's now no, surely not. Has it been deleted? Oh, it might have been deleted. Ooh. That's a bit ropey. That were one of the newspapers publishing pre-tax salaries for Biarritz Olympique, which I'm not going to go into like the weeds of. I think if you want to find it, if you want to find it, you can go. I can tell you that what I'll say is the headline. I genuinely can't see it because I can't zoom in. But the highest paid player is Romanian lock Adrian Motoc, which I think
not Jonathan Joseph.
No, well, one of the other things that was, I say you can have a look at it, but one of the things that was quite interesting is like the composition of salaries. So I think some of them were, for what you might consider for a professional rugby player, reasonably low, but some quite significant like image rights, housing allowances, things like that. So yeah, if that's your jam, go and have a look. So that was segueing from the Biarritz piece. A little bit further down the leagues, they have
just to say they have been confirmed as being eligible to stay in Pro D2 this year.
They're solvent, aren't they? They're all good. Yeah. So yeah, which I think is they've been an odd club as well, but I think that's good news, isn't it? Like we want
Biarritz. Pro D2 Montpellier.
Biarritz, Montpellier madness, the Biarritz bat shittedness or something like that. That would
barking Biarritz.
Servette Genève, rugby team from Geneva, are Fédéral 1 champions and have been promoted. I think they'd already been promoted actually, but they won the championship match against Molion, which I think is Basque Country, and they will play a national.
That's the team that's supported by
Camilo Lopez. Oh, is it? Oh, nice. Yeah, that's so that's pretty cool. Team for French rugby continues to grow.
So they're a Swiss team playing in Fédéral No, they're going to be in
National 2,
Deux.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So that is cool. You know, who knows where they'll end up? But if you ever wanted to be based somewhere where you might get some investment, I dare say Geneva is not the worst place. And then the final thing, so you mentioned a few of the rumours. Montpellier, I think, have confirmed the Hog thing, 2 + 1 year deal, which seems, honestly, I find it absolutely baffling, to be honest with you. But there we go, it's done. But the big signing news,
off the field, regardless, he's a legend of the game in Scotland.
He is a legend of the game. But I'm not saying regardless of the off-the-field stuff. I mean more from a purely rugby angle. Like he was a year out. He kind of become almost second or third choice at Exeter by the end, which I think injuries played a big part in. It just seems like a big, I don't know. Maybe it could be the sort of thing that turns out to be inspired, but it seems like a pretty odd move when you see some of the blokes who are on the market.
Well, I think good for him. He needs to get out of the Goldfish Bowl that he's currently in as well. South of France might do him a bit of good.
Might sort him out. But talking of sorting out, right, we spoke about one of the big transfer rumours or confirmations earlier, which was Sam James to Racing 92. What do you do if you're in a pickle, as Stuart Lancaster is at the moment? What do you do signings wise?
You bring in someone you can depend on. Like, I'm trying to think who this is.
Interesting.
I'm trying to. You're saying this the way you're asking this. Has he brought in like Josh Lucy or someone like that? Like,
no, he's brought in from Ealing Trailfinders. He's brought in Dan Lancaster, his son.
Oh, of course.
He's brought in his son, who plays fly half.
Yeah, he got released by Leicester this season. He was the Leicester Academy.
I did know
he
that.
Was meant. He's supposedly very highly rated. But yeah, been chatting to Mike Ford, has he?
Amazing.
And Andy Farrell.
Right. Yeah. On that note, we need to wrap up. We've been Rosbif's Rugby Podcast. You can follow us on all the usual things. For now, we will say
subscribe, give us a 5-star review. Louis Carbonell, go back and redo it.
Cheers.
Richard didn't mean it. Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.